Hey guys, this is part 2 of making our crocheted face appliques, and today we will be working on making ears and facial features. Materials for part 2, once again we'll need 2 yarn colors of our choice, a crochet hook, darning needle, scissors, and a rocking playlist, and once again I will leave my playlist recommendation down in the description, but you can use whatever songs you want because this video, once again, will be music free. So you can play your favorite songs in the background or turn on a good movie while you're working on this project. Don't worry, you will hear my lovely voice. There's just going to be no background music. Also, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And now let's get into part 2. Welcome back. So this is part 2 of making our little crocheted faces. And first we're going to start off by making a ear, or just showing you how to make ears. So I'm going to go ahead and I guess I'll go ahead and put ears on this circular head that we have here. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the yarn that you used, the same color that you used to make your actual little person here, and you're going to once again start off with a magic circle. So as usual, if you don't know how to make a magic circle, I will have a video attached in the description that you can use as a guide. But once you have that magic circle, what you're going to do, it's actually very simple, or what I do, is I go ahead and I just put 5 half double crochets into my round. So yarn over, reach into your circle, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 of those loops. And just repeat that 4 more times. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to grab my scissors and cut my yarn. Then you're going to take your tail end and pull it tight. And you should be left with like a little half circle. And as you can see, it kind of sort of looks like an ear. Oh, and one thing that I should point out, which I probably should have pointed that out earlier, is try to leave your tail end a little long so that way you can use it to weave back and forth to attach your ear onto your head, which I just wasn't thinking as I did this, so I could have made it longer, but I'll make it work. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat these steps one more time, so I'll have 2 ears. So I'll do this with you guys again. So with the yarn that you're using, color-wise, should be the same as what you've used to make your head. You start off by making a magic circle. Then you're going to put 5 half double crochets into your round. After you have your 5 half double crochets, go ahead and chain 1 and cut off a long tail so you can use it to weave in your ends later. Pull that nice and tight to secure it. And then pull, make sure I'm pulling the right one. Then pull your other tail to close up your circle. And there we go. We have 2 ears. So now what we have to do is we have to figure out where we want them to sit, and we just have to attach them onto our head. So at this point, what you're going to do is you're going to grab your darning needle and just use these 2 ends to help you weave back and forth on the sides of where you would like your ears to sit. So I just finished attaching my 1 ear. So what I'm going to do is, since I have 2 ends here, I'm just going to tie them together to help me secure and finish off this, portion of my project. And then what you can do is go ahead and take your darning needle again and just weave in your tails so, they don't come undone, and then cut your yarn. But I'm going to go ahead and just put on my other ear first before I do that bit. Okay, so I just finished attaching my ears onto my project, and as you may or may not be able to see, they're slightly slanted, but that's okay. I don't care for them to be like perfectly in a straight line. If that is something you care about, you can just take 2 stitch markers and just sit them like on either side of your head, so that way when you go to attach your ears on, you know exactly where you need to put them. But I actually kind of like it a little off-centered. I will say if you want to make your ears a little bit bigger, you could just go into a second round and do, or I should say a second row, because you're not working in the round when you make your ear. You can just do a second or third row of single crochets, and then just on one end of your little like crescent, or not crescent, but just like half circle that you'll have, put in possibly like 2 single crochets on one end, and that should just like keep your ears looking, I don't know, kind of like ears. Maybe, maybe not. To be completely honest with you, I haven't ever made ears bigger than this. So it's really just a speculation. So if there's something you find that works better to make your ears bigger, definitely let me know in the comments. But I'm going to go ahead and weave in these tail ends now that I'm done with my ears. And then we're going to hop into making our facial features. Okay, so now we are going to be working on making facial features. So we're going to start off with doing eyes. So you can go ahead and grab your secondary color that you would like to use to make your face. I'm going to use black. I personally would recommend you guys use black, but you can do this in whatever color you prefer. And you're just going to cut off a piece of yarn. You can make it a little bit longer. I won't need this full amount of yarn to do what I'm getting ready to do, but better to have too much than not enough. So just cut off a strand of your yarn and then go ahead and attach it onto your darning needle. And the first eye shape we're going to do are going to be just 2 straight lines, because I feel like that'll be a good place to start, because that'll also set us up into like figuring out how to do other face shapes as well. So wherever you think you want your eye placement to be, if you want to go ahead and grab a stitch marker, you can attach them on into the general areas where you think you might want your eyes to sit. But I'm just gonna eye it. I'm gonna eye my eyes, and I'm going to reach in from the back side and pull my yarn through, but not all the way through. You do want to leave a little tail on the back side. And then however far over you want your eye to be in width, that's how far we're going to, reach over and then stick our crochet hook into that spot. I hope that wasn't a horrible interpretation or just like description of how to do that. But I mean, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. So just like that, you now have one eye done. Now, just to be on the safe side, I like to go in and double this. So reaching around from the back side, I stick my hook back in to where we initially started off and pull it through one more time. And then once again, put my hook in through the other end, just to make sure that my eye is like wide enough. Sometimes, depending on your yarn, if it isn't super thick, you might want to double it. If it's thick enough, you might not want to, but I mean, this is going to be like a really thick eye, but you know what? It's fine. We're gonna rock and roll with it. So then what you're going to do is you're just going to reach back behind on the other side and do the same thing over again. So reaching from behind, pulling that yarn through. This time pull it straight through. You don't want it to leave like a gap or anything. And then again, try to make it as far distance as you did the other eye. It's okay if it's not perfect. And the way we're doing it, you notice we haven't, ooh, so see, look, you can already tell that one's going to be like super long. So the benefit to this is that if you make mistakes, you can very easily just take your yarn off the darning needle and then use your darning needle to help you like undo what you just did. So I'm going to play around with this second eye until it looks the way I want, but I'm just doing the same thing that I did for the first eye. Okay, so there we go. Just like that, you have 2 eyes done. Now, what you can do from here is you can keep your yarn still attached if you have a pretty decent amount that you're working with, and you can go straight into making your mouth. But I'm going to go ahead and cut over to the next clip, which will show you another variation or way of making eyes. If you don't care to take a look at that part just yet and you want to go straight into making the mouth, you can go ahead and just click on the timestamp listed right down at the bottom of your screen. Okay, now moving on to our second variation of doing eyes, we're going to do what I would call like smiling eyes. And this is going to be also very similar. We're going to start off the same way we did for our previous one. So figure out where you want your eyes to sit and go ahead and stick your yarn in from the back side, pulling up your yarn, but remember, leave a little bit of a tail on the back side. And then for however far across you want that eye to be, go ahead and stick your hook in from that side and then pull towards the back. I think I might have done this too small. We'll see in a second. No, I actually think that might kind of work for this one. So once you have that, don't pull your yarn all the way through super tight so that way it's a straight line. Otherwise you'll end up with the eye like how we had on our first, face. But for this time, what we're going to do to create like a little smiling eye kind of a look, you're basically going to do an upside down smiley face. So I'm taking this yarn here and I'm folding it up so it's like an upside down U. And I'm going to reach my yarn up and through on one side of my little, U-shaped fold here. I'm sorry if it's kind of hard to see because it's black yarn. But then what you're going to do is you're going to reach down on the other side of your little eye, little flap thing that we have there, just so that way you can pull your yarn down through from the back side and help hold that little curve thing in place. So if your eye is a bit wider and you need to do that again and again, you can do so just to make sure that your eye is secured. But then once you have the placement and you feel like it's secured enough, you can once again repeat the same thing wherever you want your second eye to sit. So once again, reaching up from the back side, pull your yarn up and through, and then for however wide you want your eye to sit, reach down and pull that yarn through to the back side. But remember, don't pull it all the way through because we need to utilize that little loop to create our little smiling eye effect. So just do as much as you need for it to match the other eye. I think I can pull a little bit more. There we go. Then reach your yarn through towards like higher up from where you did your initial little stitches because you want it to hold your eye in place. So pull that through. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry if I'm not good at describing this. I just don't necessarily know the right words to use. But once you have that on one side, then you're going to, as closely as you can to where you pulled up from, go ahead and reach back down in to secure that eye in place. And make sure you pull it nice and taut, but not too taut that it kind of messes up the shape of your eye. And that is how you get to little happy smiling eyes. So now moving on to the mouth, I still have my yarn connected onto my work. I just finished my eyes. So for where I want my mouth to be, I am going to make a basic smiling face for this person. So just pick a point where you want your smile to start. And then what I like to do is instead of pulling my needle all the way through, I like to go ahead and just like figure out where I want the other end of the smile to end. So I stick my hook through the other side or other end of where I want the smile to end off. And then I go ahead and pull it straight through. And this is just how I make sure that my smile is even on both sides. So now my person is looking kind of mad. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a little curve. And you do that by, so we have our yarn on the back side. This is where we left off at. You're going to reach down towards the bottom of your face, however far down you want your smile to sit. And you're going to reach from the back side and pull up that yarn through, making sure that you do it on one side of your like little mouth smile. It doesn't matter if it comes up on the bottom side or the top side. You just want to make sure you reach under and grab it. And then you're going to stick your hook down in the other side of the mouth, not super far apart, because you want this little stitch that we're getting ready to do to basically disappear. And make sure that you don't pull the smile like too tight, or else it'll make it like super triangular like that, and it'll look a little weird. So keep your tension kind of loose on the mouth when doing this, but go ahead and reach down in on the other side. Keep it as close to where you just ended off your stitch, or your stitch coming up, and go ahead and pull that yarn through. You want to pull it tight, but not too tight that you start to, like interfere with the shape of your mouth. So you can leave it at that, but what I like to do in areas where it looks like my mouth isn't fully curved in the way I want, I just go ahead and repeat the process. So I'm gonna reach up on one side of my little smile here, and then stick my hook back down as close to where I reached up from, to go ahead and just make sure that that portion of the smile is held down nice and, properly in place. Okay, so one more time, I'm going to do it on this other side over here. And there you go. You got a basic smile done. Now, what I'm going to show you guys next is how to do a open mouth facial expression. So once you're done and you're satisfied with how everything looks, you can go ahead and flip your work over to the back side. And then if you want to tie your ends, you can tie them together and then just weave in your ends on the back side a little bit, and then just cut off the excess, cut off the excess yarn that you have. So I'll do that, and then we'll get into our second mouth. Now, the next mouth shape that we're going to do is a open mouth. So this person's going to be living their best life. So once again, we're always reaching out from behind. So from wherever you want your mouth to sit, like at the top, you're going to go ahead and reach up and pull your yarn through. And then however far across you want your mouth to be, go ahead and stick your needle back down in there, pull it nice and, tight. Then what you're going to do is you are going to pull your yarn back up through very close to the spot where you just like reach down in from, but make sure it's not in the same exact stitch. Otherwise, if I were to stick my needle right up in this same hole and pull it back this way all the way through, I would just undo the little line that I just did, and that's not what I want to do. So try to keep it as close as possible to where you ended off at, but don't be in the exact same spot. So I'm going to go just a smidge above where I stopped that stitch and pull my yarn through. Okay, and you see what it does is it doesn't have my mouth come undone. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over to where I first pulled my yarn in from on the other side. And this can be in the same exact hole because it does make a difference going backwards. But this time I'm not going to pull my yarn all the way through, similarly to how I did my eyes. So I'll pull my yarn as much as I want my mouth to be open for, which I think I'll make it a little bit smaller. I think that's going to be enough. And then we're going to do the same thing we did for the eyes. So holding our little bottom curved open mouth smile part in place, you're going to reach from behind and bring your darning needle up on one side of that smile, and then reach down on the other side of the smile, pulling that yarn through and then pulling it tight so you keep your smile in place. So I'm going to do the same thing at 2 other points on this bottom portion of the mouth, and then I'll do one just on the top just to make sure that it sits perfectly straight and it doesn't move. So repeat that for however many times you want, just to secure your smile in place. And then that's the end of that smile. So once again, flip your work over to the back, and then you can tie your 2 ends and weave them back and forth a few times, and then cut off your excess yarn. Okay, so I did finish weaving the back ends. As you can see, it kind of looks a hot mess from the back side because of all the different places that, I was going in and out between the eyes and the mouth, but that's okay. Nobody's gonna be staring at the back side, but this is what your facial features should look like, or could possibly look like at this point. Now I am going to do a little bit more with this one. I'm gonna add in some teeth and a tongue, just, why not, just to play around and have some fun. But if you don't care to do that, you don't have to do this part. This is just me being extra. So let's go ahead and do that. Which, if you're going to do this little addition, you are going to possibly want to use 2 additional colors. So I'm going to go ahead and pull some white yarn and a pink to serve as some teeth and a tongue. We'll start off with doing the teeth because this is unbelievably easy. So go ahead and just cut off a little bit of yarn and go ahead and pull that through your darning needle. And then from the back side of your work, go ahead and right underneath the line of where your mouth is, you're going to pull through that white yarn, which, let me make sure I'm getting it all the way in the corner. Cool. And then right to the other corner of where this mouth ends, I'm going to stick my needle in through there. And just like that, you have teeth. So you can do it from corner to corner, or you could start it just a little bit past that. I think it's kind of hard to see because it's white on another light yarn, but I think I'm going to redo that and start it off just a little bit further in this time. And then end off a little bit further in as well. Pull it through. Okay, yeah, no, I think I liked it the first way. So I'll just do from corner to corner. Okay, once you have that in place, you can go ahead and reach around on either side of your little line just to hold it in place so that way your teeth don't move. Okay, and then you can knot your 2 ends, weave them back in, back and forth, and then cut off this yarn if you wanted to just have top teeth, which is what I'm going to do because I want to put a tongue down here. But if you wanted to do bottom teeth as well, you would just do the same thing. No need to reattach your yarn. Just go ahead from where you left off and then, pull up your yarn from the bottom or back side along the bottom side of your mouth. But I'm going to end here. I'm going to tie these 2 ends together and weave them through the back side of my project a little bit. And then I'll show you guys how I do my tongue, which is also unbelievably easy. Okay, now to do a tongue, I'm going to grab a little bit of this pink yarn that I have here. And once again, attach it onto your darning needle. Once your new color is attached onto your darning needle, go ahead and stick your stick your darning needle in from the back side to the front, wherever you want your tongue to sit. Pull that yarn through, And then I like to just like play around with where I think I want the tongue to, kind of be. So I think I'm gonna stick in there because I don't want my tongue to go from corner to corner of my mouth. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make the tongue a little bit wider. So I'm gonna repeat that again, reaching up just a little bit further from where I, reached in the first time to bring my yarn up on the front side of my project. And then stick my hook back down in through the other side like that. And that is literally all I do for making my tongue. This isn't the best tongue that I've done, but you can play around with it a little bit until you get something that you're satisfied with. But this is really all there is to it. So play around with it between making the eyes, the mouth, and if you want to, add some teeth and a tongue, and just see what you come up with. So I don't think this guy has to be perfect. So I'm actually going to just leave this as is. Once you're satisfied with that, you can once again tie off your two ends and then weave in your ends back and forth a few times and then cut off your yarn. And there you go. You have your two faces. We have two different eye shapes, two different mouths, and a tongue and teeth if you would like to go ahead and add that to your project. So play around with making your facial features until you end up with, what works for you. And make sure that you stay tuned for part 3, which will be uploaded tomorrow.